Buy my audio, you human scum! Hi everyone, TavisGuy123 here, and today the time has finally come to review Jago and Litefoot and Strax. I love the way Nicholas Briggs says that in the trailer. He knows he's being so cheeky about it, and he knows that some fans aren't going to be happy, so he just goes, and Strax. Listen to it next time, it's quite amusing. But anyway, here's the front, that's the spine, here's the back, that's disc 1, that's disc 2. There are the 10 series of Jago and Litefoot, front of the booklet, back of the booklet, and finally we have the inside of the booklet. So then, The Haunting, or as it's more commonly known, Jago and Litefoot and Strax, is a 2-disc story by Justin Richards, and obviously the main element of it, the main selling point of it, is the fact that it contains Strax. And what this purchase ultimately comes down to is how fond you actually are of Strax, because he has his fans, he has quite a few fans. There are people in the middle who sort of who enjoy some of his jokes, don't actually hate him as a character, and I consider myself one of those people. And then there's people who actually hate him, hate his jokes, hate what he's done to Sontarans, and all that other stuff, which I'm sure you can find if you look at any internet comment section. Now, as I said, I'm one of the people who's in the middle ground. I think I'm fine with Strax now. I was originally a bit off towards him. I didn't really like him too much, mainly because of what he represented in terms of the Sontaran race. Although now I can sort of like forgive that. I forgive sort of like, he's an element off by himself really. I don't consider him part of the Sontarans in that way. And, you know, I can appreciate his comedy and where that comes from and whatnot, and it works, especially in this audio. I'd say it definitely works. In the TV series, sometimes it does annoy me quite a bit. Some of the jokes do feel a bit too slapstick and a bit too in your face for my liking. But in this audio, he does work very well. I think Justin Richards has got the perfect balance there. And obviously there's the whole thing of confusing genders, which is sort of from out of the main series, but nevertheless, it does work quite well here, and it's quite amusing to have him confuse Jago and Litefoot for Madame Vastra and Jenny. And, you know, the main comedy from that is actually their reactions to it, and upon hearing that, there is some quite funny dialogue there, mainly derived from Jago and Litefoot, funnily enough. So, Strax does bring out a good side to Jago and Litefoot, I feel. Now, the story itself is rather a simple one, and does it justify the 2-disc story length? Probably not. He probably could have got away with it in just a 1-disc story, but I think the presence of Strax there kind of like demands for it to be a 2-disc, and you sort of like have the first half of the story mainly spent in Strax getting used to Jago and Litefoot as characters and whatnot, and vice versa. And the fun that can be had there's quite a few funny scenes, including one involving a parrot. But yeah, this one is mainly made up of those funny interactions. There is some involvement with the main plot as well. It sort of like starts to get going. It's flustering away there in the background, and the main plot is part of the reason why Strax ends up confusing Jago and Litefoot for Jenny and Vastra. And I think that works quite well in the way that plays out. It's not completely for comedic effect, there is some other stuff going on there as well, but yeah, it is mainly for comedic effect, and I can forgive that because Jago and Litefoot does often have a comical side to it along with the seriousness, and this story, yeah, it has a little bit of seriousness in there, but it's mainly played for laughs. They know it's going to be a comedy, they got Strax in there, but at the same time it's not sort of like an outright comedy. There is still a proper story in there as well with a proper conclusion. Yeah, admittedly I'm not too fond of the conclusion or the way that plays out. At least I wasn't on first listen, actually. I did sort of become accustomed to it on the second listen and think that it's an alright conclusion, actually. This story did improve for me on the second listen. Even though I knew most of the jokes were coming, they did still make me laugh. You know, you can watch some comedy classics like Only Fools and Horses and Faulty Tales and still laugh at the jokes even though you know they're coming. And this story is very much like that. You know, as long as you don't overdo it and over-listen to it too much, and I don't know anyone who really would, but, you know, I think if you listen to it like once in a while, like maybe 1 or 2 listens per year, then the jokes will still amuse you quite a bit in the future. But anyway, the way this story plays out in part 2 very much leads it to a more science fiction setting, and I think that's quite interesting because Jago and Litefoot itself could be viewed as almost a fantasy series in a way, and while there is obviously, because it's part of the world of Doctor Who, there is all that stuff of science fiction lurking in the background. Because Jago and Litefoot, being from Victorian times and not having the mass intelligence of the Doctor behind them, don't really have sort of like the knowledge to describe these things. They sort of like, it does sort of like get confused with fantasy at times. And while they know there is a sort of scientific explanation for it, they don't know that scientific explanation. So from our point of view, it could be viewed as a fantasy series really, because any science that can't be explained could be seen as magic. And that is very much what goes on here in Jago and Litefoot, at least in the main series, whereas here you have Strax thrown in there. And Strax does sort of have this knowledge of otherworldly things, of spaceships and whatnot, which does come into play in the second half. And so that sort of like adds a much more science fiction element and makes it a bit more like the new series does with its Victorian London stories with Jenny, Vastra and Strax. So that works quite well. I think that sort of puts Strax in his element, whereas for the most of the story he's been more in Jago and Litefoot's element in a lot of ways, and sort of like their methods that they use, where it's sort of like quiet observations, like staking out their haunted house and whatnot. And there are some quite lovely scenes there between the three of them, and also in some cases the four of them, because Ellie herself, the barmaid, for those of you who don't know, does get involved in the story quite a bit as well. She sort of like goes off with Jago and Litefoot towards the end, and also towards the middle as well. And while she isn't a continuous part of it like Jago, Litefoot and Strax are, she is very much in the story for a fair bit, which makes you wonder, could they have called it Jago and Litefoot and Ellie and Strax? Maybe not. But yeah, Ellie is quite funny, and I do very much like her character in the Jago and Litefoot main series, and she works quite well in here actually. She works quite well with Strax, and she also comes up with some ideas to sort of like try and straighten things out with Strax and make him see that she herself is a woman, and also that Jago and Litefoot are not Madame Vastra and Jenny. And, you know, she plays some quite good roles in that sense, and also gets some other good stuff to do throughout the story. And now we come to Inspector Quick as well, who is another sort of like of the supporting characters from the Jago and Litefoot main series, who was also in Talent of Win Chiang. And he very much plays, once again, that sort of like in and out role, when he sort of like occasionally checks up on Jago and Litefoot's investigations. And yeah, he works for this story, he does. I think, yeah, he works for all Jago and Litefoot's stories, really. And while his presence isn't really much of a main role as such, it is very much an important supporting role, which adds some extra comedy in there as well. And also an added element of realism, because obviously Litefoot is a pathologist working for the police, and it helps to have a regular face among the police force, and Inspector Quick does very much provide that regular face. Now we come to the villain of the piece, Mrs Multravers, who you've probably heard in the trailers, and yeah, she's quite a good villain, I'd say. There's some interesting layers going on there that are revealed, especially towards the end, and some interesting stuff. She is a bit of a typical new series female villain in some ways, but she does have her own thing going on there. She works quite well with the whole Jago Litefoot aspect, but then towards the end, where you get the more scientific stuff going on, she does fit in with the world of Strax as well, so I think that's quite good. She works on both levels in that sense, and she's quite a fun villain going through the story. You know, she's mainly left in the background for most of Disc 1, and then in Disc 2 she does come more to the forefront, where the plot itself comes more to the forefront. And you know, yeah, she works, I'd say, and she's quite an interesting villain. It's not sort of like an all-out hunt for the villain. You know, she very much works in the shadows. She's quite an interesting villain, I guess. You know, there is some yeah, she's just an interesting villain, I guess is the best way to put it. Not a complex character in any ways, but she serves her purpose for this story, and you know, it does all the stuff she needs to do. She sort of like stirs up the plot and everything, and there is a good reason behind what she's doing, which, if you want to find out what that is, you'll have to listen to the story and find out. Now, on first listen, I did think there was something quite different going on with her, and there was sort of like some maybe false hints that I picked up on a bit too much, which I thought could go in a certain direction. Ended up not going in that direction. That slightly disappointed me, admittedly. But you know, on second listen, I did sort of like, because I wasn't expecting that anymore, it did lower my disappointment quite a lot, and I can see why they didn't go for the thinking that I was going for, which I won't reveal obviously, but it has something to do with Strax. But yeah, ultimately they didn't go for that, and you know what, I'm kind of happy they didn't go for that now in hindsight. So then, overall, Jago and Litefoot and Strax is a fun little adventure. If you have 15 quid spare, I would recommend picking it up if you're a fan of the Jago and Litefoot series, or if you haven't picked up any Jago and Litefoot yet and are sort of like thinking of doing it but don't want to spend the full 30-35 quid on a full series, then yeah, pick this up as a sort of like soft introduction to the series. And also, if you like Strax, and it's probably a good jumping on point. If you absolutely hate Strax, then I would probably say maybe skip this audio. I don't know, it depends how much you hate Strax. I think it is probably best not to skip this audio. It is very much Strax in the TV series in a long way, although there is a bit more going on there as well, and being with Jago and Litefoot, he does get along with them quite well. If you're meh towards Jago and Strax, like I was, then I would recommend picking this up actually, because this did improve Strax in my eyes and made me see more of the quality that could be brought from such a character, and also the different sides of the character that could be explored in the future maybe, because there is a number 1 written there which could imply a second use of Jago and Strax along the way, and I would pick up for that, to be honest. I think it would be fun to have maybe one of these every year or something like that. That would be quite good, I'd say. I saw like a little mini-series going on there. Yeah, I'd be up for more Jago and Litefoot and Strax. But anyway, overall rating, I'd give this one an 8 out of 10. Recommended to buy it if you either like Strax or are a bit iffy on Strax. If you absolutely hate Strax, I wouldn't risk it, to be honest. At least if you sort of like only have the 15 quid, there are some good main range stories that you might want to pick up instead. But yeah, I think overall Jago and Litefoot Strax is a good story in my eyes, and I think it was a good idea also to bring in Strax and sort of this is the first real mixing of classic and new Who, and so it's quite monumental for that, but also it's quite good to sort of like see these multiple creations of Robert Holmes come together. And while Strax himself obviously wasn't a creation of Robert Holmes, it was a creation of Stephen Moffat, but the Sontarans were a creation of Robert Holmes, so in that sense it's quite good to have these two brought together. And also it's sort of like a smart idea for Big Finish business wise, because obviously it'd be good for people who like the new series and who like Strax in the new series but haven't really watched Talons or heard of Jago and Litefoot. Yeah, it's a good way to introduce them to their character as well by following a character they know. So yeah, I'd say that was quite an interesting decision. But anyway, I think it's time to end this review now by saying thank you all so much for watching, and I will of course see you all in the next video. Bye everyone.
Right lads, this is a place.
Is the house really haunted, Inspector?
I gather there have been 3 other brainless bodies found in the last few weeks.
You mean this is the 4th?
Your brain is suitable.
Sorry?
You will be.
What was that?
Just the wind, probably.
Spectral creatures, show yourselves. Surrender now and your death will be swift.
Yeah, ghosts, spooks, spectres. The supernatural, paranormal, uncanny, and just plain downright weird.
Yeah, I try to explain, but he insists you, Professor, are the great detective Madame Vastra. And he thinks Mr. Jago here is an housemaid called Jenny. And he thinks you're both married.
Corks. You mean he thinks we've got husbands?
Not exactly.
Then what exactly?
He thinks you're married to each other.
What?
Heavens above!